Hey there, welcome to Rave Culture Cast, your weekly guide to the EDM community, music festivals, and more, hosted by me, Emma Capotis. Each week, I'll be covering everything from dance music culture, industry news, trending topics, and festival tips, advice, and reviews. You can also expect to hear stories from ravers, artists, business owners, and more. Tune in every Wednesday for your weekly dose of peace, love, unity, and respect. Hey guys, welcome back to Rave Culture Cast, your weekly guide to the EDM community, music festivals, and more. I'm your host, Emma Capotis. Today, I am so excited to bring you guys this episode and my guest, Priya Chandel, who is the Executive Director of Bioplastic in the United States. I actually heard about Bioplastic probably within the last year through Blondish, Vivian, who is the founder. So we're going to be tackling sustainability in the music industry today, and just talking about Bioplastic's efforts and everything that they're doing with their eco rider, and how they're working with event promoters, artists, festival organizers, tons of people in this space to create a plastic-free movement. We're also going to talk about how you and I, the fans, can get involved, because there's so much we can do as well to make a change in this industry, so that we have a better impact on the world and on our environment. As you guys can imagine, every time we go to a show, when you're dancing and moving around, how often are you stepping on trash? How many water bottles are being consumed, straws, like everything like that. So I'm going to be chatting with Priya today about Bioplastic, their mission, what they're doing, and how basically we can get involved. So it's a super important topic. I'm honestly honored that I could have her on to talk about it. Please stay tuned till the end so you guys can learn how you can get involved. But this is just one of those things. It's a societal issue, and it's something that we all need to do our part to see a change in this industry. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Really quickly before Priya comes on, I want to talk about our listener of the week. So I had a submission. You guys can always drop submissions if you want to nominate somebody. I have a channel in our Discord called Listener of the Week. You can also email me, raveculturecast@gmail.com, and just submit your Listener of the Week. So this one says, I wanted to submit my friend Kayla C for Listener of the Week. I've known for a few years, but didn't start hanging out with her and spending time with her until I met her at a local show. Since then, we've been carpooling and pre-gaming with each other ever since. She also helped guide our group through our first EDC Las Vegas this year, and I would have been completely lost without her. She knew where to be, when to be there, and how to get there. Super important. Not to mention, she is the one who recommended Rave Culture Cast to me. I can say with pride that she is a member of my Rave fam. Thank you so much, Kayla C. You are a Listener of the Week. First off, thank you for being a member. Thank you for telling your friends about it. And it sounds like you're a fellow Rave mom. So shout out to Kayla. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. I'm super happy to have you here. All right, guys, with all that being said, I want to dive right into things. So please join me in welcoming Priya Chandel to the podcast. Guys, I have a very special guest today. Priya is joining me. We actually met at Ultra Miami this year. And I think it was during Vinny Vici's set, right? On Friday, and into Armin van Buuren, I think, is when we met. Yeah. Okay, sweet. But she is the executive director of Bioplastic in the US. And I've known a little bit about Bioplastic actually within like this past year. But after meeting you and diving into your story, I really just wanted to have you on to like learn a little bit more about you, but also share Bioplastic's mission as well with my audience. And I want to learn more about all the efforts you guys are doing, because I think it's really amazing. So thank you for taking the time today, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. It's so important, what we are doing at Bioplastic. So we're so grateful for opportunities like this, where we really can share what we're doing, especially with people who are in the scene. Because Bioplastic actually specifically focuses on the music industry. So, music is really like the largest social connector. And so we just, not me, I joined in a little bit later, like 2 years after Bioplastic was initially formed. But the idea was that music is a really positive way to work on sustainability and get people turned inside to themselves and connect with Mother Nature. And not feel guilty being part of an experience that is usually detrimental to our environmental climate. So yeah, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah. So before we dive into everything today too, could you kind of like give us a little 411 on you as well? Like, where are you from? Yeah, what do you do? Your name, everything like that too.
Yeah, of course. So my name is Priya Chandale. I am the Executive Director of Bioplastic USA, as you mentioned. I'm actually originally from St. Louis, Missouri, which people are always just like,
Nice.
wait, you're from Missouri?
Right.
I have a background in business. I did international studies, business, and hospitality management when I was in school.
Nice.
And coming out of college, my friends and I had made an app called Nightlife, and we were doing a lot of event promotions. And that's how I got into the music industry. So I got cherry picked by SFX Entertainment because they were one of my clients. And I moved down to Miami in 2016, was working out of the Life in Color office. And then I ended up working for them doing event production. And yeah, when I got out of music, I always wanted to get back in. I had ended up in corporate events, but like my passion was always the music scene.
Right.
And when I was just thinking about when I wanted to re-enter or how I wanted to, at the same time, I was also really setting the intention to do something in sustainability, specifically around single-use plastics. Because that has just been a passion of mine for so long. And it was something that, even though I was doing it on a very personal level, it wasn't something that I was doing large scale. So in 2020, right before the pandemic hit, I really think I just started thinking about how can I get back into music, and also what can I do to get involved in the single-use plastics issue. And then I came across Bye Bye Plastic, and it was the intersection of both.
Right.
And so when I found out about it, I was like, here it is. Like,
Yeah.
this is so perfect. And I reached out and yeah, got involved.
That's so wow, what a moment. I can't even imagine. I'm like a firm believer and like very into like the woo-woo spirituality stuff, but that kind
I
of just sounds like it was like the perfect timing. And like, what are the chances that how did you discover it? Were you just like searching things online?
So a really weird pattern, like connection of events. It would be too long for me to explain, but yeah, I ended up coming across Blondish on Instagram specifically. And
Okay.
when I was just like going through her stuff, I discovered Bye Bye Plastic, and the name just intrigued me. So it was in her bio, and I clicked on it, and I started following their stuff. And I ended up actually during the pandemic watching one of their Instagram lives where they hosted a Meet the Team live. So I
Okay.
really got to learn about everybody who is part of the organization, what they do. And I saw it as an opportunity to get involved because I knew the scale of the mission. And then I visibly saw how small the team was and how there was no presence in the United States.
Okay.
So with me having worked in the music industry in the States and knowing how big of a market this is, how much the US, how far behind the US is than Europe, I immediately reached out and I was just like, hey guys, like I love what you're doing. I think this is amazing. And I think I really can help you guys accomplish, a big part of your goal by tackling the US market. And so it really just went from there.
Wow. I'm so glad you brought that up too, because I like when I started looking more into like sustainability with music festivals, I know there's like a whole market for that in Europe for sure. And I think there's like a couple festivals who are like pretty advanced with that. But like you hit the nail on the head with like the US definitely being like way behind in that. So what was that first connection like when you like first came on board? And how did you like first get involved with your role?
Yeah, so at first I was actually a volunteer. So there
Okay,
weren't
nice.
any like opportunities available. Obviously, like we were in the middle of a pandemic, the events and festival scene was completely shut down. So there was a lot of focus on the eco writer specifically. So I initially started with helping with the eco writer and doing outreach to artists that way. But my nature is very like when I get involved, I kind of have to get involved in like everything and not just
Mm-hmm.
stay in like one lane. Also a big growing lesson for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, so at the same time, we were also doing a bunch of live streams. This is when Blondish was doing a lot of streaming on her Abracadabra network on Twitch. So we had a lot of like partnership opportunities that were coming up specifically for live streams. So I was kind of handling that. Yeah, and then as the times, like as things started opening up, obviously like South Florida was pretty open.
Right.
There was more of an opportunity to actually open up into events. So when we launched the Clean the Beat program, which is our global cleanup program, so it involves music, sustainability, data collection, and plastic circularity. Like we turned organic cleanups that we were doing like in Tulum and stuff into an actual program that was focused on like very specific metrics, and then ending with plastic circularity. So Miami was wide open. So it was a really good opportunity to at least activate a city in the US that was open for events and for the music industry. So it naturally unfolded that Miami became like the headquarters of Bioplastic USA. So in 2021, we officially registered as a nonprofit here in the US.
Amazing. Yeah, that's so cool. So what are the chances? Are you still in Miami now today?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And how I'm kind of like jumping around, but how big is the team now?
So on the US side, it's myself. We have an events and activations manager, Lex, and we also have a volunteer coordinator as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, it's
So
the timing of it is crazy with the pandemic. Just given like everything, especially with Europe being a little bit behind too. I can imagine that I can't think the right word right now, but that kind of like put things behind just because they didn't even have events open until very, very long after we did
yeah.
too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's similar here in the States as well. Like there were so many states and cities that were just completely shut down, and Miami was like eons
Yeah.
in the future, it felt like.
Right.
And so yeah, we just took advantage of it. It was great because Blondish was also here as well. So having her here playing gigs, it really just established us to have a footprint here that we can move from. But yeah, now things are opening in Europe as well. So our team there is pretty active, and it's nice that like both sides are moving and expanding.
I kind of want to chat a little bit about like the issue at its core too, because I want to talk later too about how people can get involved, like listening as well, guys. Like I'll link so many resources, anything else that you think is helpful for people if they want to volunteer too. But can you share a little bit about like what the core issue is for somebody who's listening, who maybe is just goes to a couple festivals here and there and doesn't understand like the impact that we're having on the environment or that the entire industry is making on the world? What was the core issue that Bioplastic is targeting?
Yeah, so I think this is like the one thing we all have in common outside of just loving music. I think everyone who has attended a music festival has an experience of either leaving a music festival at the end of the night and just seeing a sea of trash on the floor, or you're dancing on the dance floor and for a split second you're taken away from the music because your foot ended up inside of a plastic cup, or you stepped on a water bottle, and like you feel and hear that crunch sound and you're just like, that is so annoying.
Yep.
And really that's where that vision and that experience was the inception of Bye Bye Plastic. So Blondish was playing a sunrise set at Warung Beach Club in Brazil. And as the sun was coming up, like the crowds also like kind of dissipated at that point. All she saw was just trash all over the floor. And I think as an artist, she had, a realization of like, this is an industry that we love so much, but what is the cost of us having this fun?
Right.
And so really what Bye Bye Plastic tackles is not just the consumption of single-use plastics and why that's a problem. It's really the social behavior element of it, is like, at what point have we gotten in a society where we're not responsible for our own behaviors anymore?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this every time, like when I go to a movie theater or even like a sports game, when did it become okay to just leave your trash on the floor with the
Right.
expectation that someone else is going to come pick it up after you?
Mm-hmm.
And in a lot of times with the music industry, you have to think how much of that stuff doesn't actually get picked up after you. Like, there's so much that cleaning crews
Mm.
can do, but like a little fork or a knife or something, all of
Mm-hmm.
that can get blown away. With events that happen near water sources, it can end up in the water, then animals eat it. And so it becomes part of this ecosystem that ends up actually harming humans at the end. Like,
Right.
it's no one, I mean, I hope not, more people are getting educated, but a lot of people are now understanding and learning that, when there are animals that are eating these plastics, and then humans are then consuming that fish,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's disrupting your own hormones. So
Right.
now humans are having all of these like physical imbalances. And then I just think
Yeah.
it's just creating mass imbalance in the world. Like, going back to like the woo woo, I don't think it should even be called woo woo. It really just
Right.
is the way the world works. Is if you have an imbalance internally, you're going to see that imbalance reflected externally. And I
Right.
think it's so clear how imbalanced we are as a collective, and what Mother Nature is doing to us to really show like signals or warnings, like, hey, wake
Mm-hmm.
up. Like, this is not a state of balance. And
Right.
Bye Bye Plastic really focuses on, how do we bring people back into that balance? How do we make people conscious of their behaviors? How can we have fun, not at the expense of the planet?
Yeah. Oh, that was so beautifully said. Even if one person listening to this also, just like, instead of throwing their trash on the ground at the next show, like goes to the garbage can or recycling that the events have and throws it away, like, I will be happy with that. But I can't. That was such a good visual representation of it, because that happens at every single show, and I don't think we realize, like, across the world, how many of these events are happening, not just outdoors, but nightclubs, like anything related to the music industry where there's just so much trash or plastic being used. I just don't think people realize it. And there are some events who organize like trash pickups, or certain artists who maybe like at the end of their set will say something about it. But it doesn't seem like it's enough. And do you think, like, what misconceptions do you think people have about sustainability at this point in 2022?
A few. From the event producer side, I think a lot of people are deterred because they immediately hear that sustainability equals a lot of money, like it's high in
Mm-hmm.
costs. And so when an entire industry or like movement becomes cost prohibitive, people are very quick to shut it down.
Right.
And I think from a consumer perspective, I think a lot of people are of just the mindset of like, this doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
There are statistics of like, they're only like, I think 30% of recycling actually gets recycled. And that's really discouraging to people. So for
Mm-hmm.
even the people who have spent the time, or they have spent the money and have made the effort to make those changes, to find out that there's a chance at the end of the cycle that their efforts had gone in vain,
Mm-hmm.
it's really deterring. And so I think, again, this just becomes a societal problem of,
Right.
what are we doing and how do we fix this to make
Mm-hmm.
it actually work, so that everybody can feel good about what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and that the planet can feel good as a result as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I know plastic is one of the major things you guys are tackling, but even with like the environmental impact, like on a location, I always wonder about as well, because I know, I think it was prior to the pandemic, Electric Forest, for example, used to be 2 weekends in Michigan. And I know they cut back to 1 weekend and came out with a statement saying like the impact that it makes on that forest and that location, like the amount of footprints like on the ground, like it's the tents, the trash, everything is just too much. So they ended up eliminating the 2 weekends. And I don't know if they'll just do one moving forward, but I remember seeing like mixed responses to that originally because so many people wanted to go. But on the flip side, I think a majority of people who attend music festivals understand the impact and would rather it be 1 weekend just so that it didn't ruin a place we love so much moving forward in the future. Um,
Yeah.
so that was
That's
just like one example I could think of off the top of my head.
that's incredibly like integral for a
Hmm.
festival to come out, especially for Insomniac, because I mean they're, you
Hmm.
can imagine how much money they're making in a weekend on Electric Forest. I mean, they sell out like as soon as they go
Hmm.
live. But for a company to actually make a statement like that saying we're going to pick the environment that's actually providing the space for us to create
Hmm.
this experience over ransacking it just for profit is extremely powerful. And I
Hmm.
think that's what we need more industry leaders to do, is to actually step up and pick impact over profit. And it's unfortunate that we don't see more of that. But I do think that with sustainability coming into focus and with a lot more of artists demanding it, as well as like the consumers,
Hmm.
I'm hoping that things will level out and that, event producers will actually start falling in line and doing the right thing.
Yeah, for sure. And so when Bye Bye Plastic comes in, just so that people understand, because there's different levels of like the actual attendees and there's the artist roles, the event producers, like everybody kind of has a different role. But when you guys come in, what kind of like what are you asking of people or what are you encouraging them to do? And I guess maybe we could start from the artist perspective. Like what role do the DJs and artists play in Bye Bye Plastic?
Yeah, so the DJs and the artists are really like our spokespeople.
Hmm.
They really are the ones that have a lot of power. I like to view them as like the king or the queen of the castle.
Hmm.
So what we started was our Eco Writer initiative. So for those of you guys who don't know, a writer is at least the hospitality writer is a list of like requests that the artist and their team have for everything when it comes to hospitality, like their hotel, their transport, and specifically in the show environment, it's like their drinks, their snacks, everything that's set up for them in their green room or on the DJ booth. So the eco writer specifically asks promoters and event producers not to use single-use plastics when advancing their writer. So that eliminates plastic water bottles from the green rooms, plastic cups, cutlery, straws, plateware, the whole 9 yards.
Hmm.
And I think when people see the requests coming from an artist and they're an artist that actually backs it up, like
Hmm.
they enforce it, um, they have to oblige.
Right.
So what we're working on now, because one of the concerns that we'd had over the years is, well, what do we do when promoters don't fulfill the rider the way that we requested it?
Hmm.
So we want to empower artists to use their voice to, call it out,
Right.
make it more of a demand. Like Blondish is not playing a single show on this planet where there's going to be plastic on her rider because people just
Right.
know.
Hmm.
And that's really encouraging. So what we're actually starting to work on now is getting the eco rider into the contractual part of the booking process,
Okay.
so that once it's contractually part of the agreement, it's
Hmm.
a legally binding agreement. And so there has to be either you fulfill, and if you don't, you pay.
Right.
So we now have like a plastic offset donation component where if an event is not
Mm-hmm.
single-use plastic free, they're paying a donation to Bye Bye Plastic. And this is enforced by the artists that have our eco writer.
Hmm.
So it becomes like you know, a really well-oiled machine in terms of how can we have the impact that we want to do, and how do we generate resources to actually do that as well.
Yeah. And I imagine that trickles down too, especially if, like, let's say it's the headliner themselves and then they have all the support on their tour or something like that as well. If they do that throughout an entire tour and then lead by example, and then the supporting acts follow and things like that too, and then they go on to do other tours, I can imagine like it just starts with that one person or those very few people to actually stand up and say something.
Exactly. And yeah, in
Yeah.
that process also, we're also introduced to the venues or the events. So we then have our secondary step, which is introducing them to the plastic-free transition. So we do plastic-free transitions for venues, events, festivals, etc. And we just from the entry point, we assess all of their single-use plastics that they use, and we then build a phase by phase plan, which we call a plastic free transition, to get them from an event that has a bunch of single use plastics to eventually one that has none.
Sure.
So
Gotcha.
the phases are really important, because if you just throw every single use plastic item at like an event,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be overwhelmed with like decision fatigue and like, I don't know how to do this.
Mm-hmm.
So our phase one is really where we start with pretty much everyone, unless we have
Mm-hmm.
analyzed that they are beyond that phase.
Mm-hmm.
And that starts with what we call the big three, which is single-use plastic water bottles, cups, and straws. So high impact, very minimal things that a producer needs to look at.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what starts their journey into becoming a
Gotcha.
plastic-free event.
Cool. Oh, that's awesome to hear. I mean, it's I hope it becomes more common practice for people, because it's really, really cool to see Blondish doing this and seeing other artists catching on. And then that, I'm sure, like, event promoters, it trickles down to also. And I'm curious if it, like, let's use a festival, for example. So if an artist has the Eco Rider and they're playing a music festival, but let's say like the rest of the festival isn't compliant, or there aren't that many other artists on there, like how do we get to a place where there's maybe like an entire event or an entire festival that's eco-friendly? And these may exist already in Europe or something like that, but if you have any examples to share, that would be awesome to hear.
Yeah. So for example, we worked with Seismic Dance event last year.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we'll continue to do so, because they're very eco-conscious. So the alignment and the ethos is there. So
Awesome.
how that conversation began to be, in the beginning was, I saw their lineup come across on Instagram, and
Mm-hmm.
just visually looking at the lineup, I was like, whoa, like there's a lot of our eco warrior DJs on this list.
Cool.
So that becomes an amazing talking point when you're reaching out to a festival, because that their advancing team, when they're processing these writers
Mm-hmm.
from these DJs, are going to keep seeing Bye Bye Plastic, Eco Writer, Bye Bye Plastic.
Okay, that's smart. Yep.
So I reached out and I was just like, hey, like, we'd love to talk with you guys about making your festival single-use plastic free. Like, we have, I forgot what the percentage of it, but just for example,
Mm-hmm.
like 30% of your lineup are DJs that are in our network. So you've probably seen or are going to be seeing
Mm-hmm.
our eco writer. It would be great if we just advance your entire lineup according to our plastic free standards,
Cool.
instead of only doing it for a handful that have requested it. And they said yes. So in that process, we then get introduced in the advancing process to all of the management or the artist
Mm-hmm.
directly. And then we introduce Bye Bye Plastic and the Eco Writer. And then that's
That's
how we
awesome.
then fulfill an entire lineup that has been advanced with green rooms that are completely single-use plastic free.
That's amazing to hear. I can't imagine, because if somebody was not knowledgeable about it, but then the actual festival itself comes to them and lets them know, like, who's going to say, no, give me the extra plastic. I want the extra plastic. Like, who's going to say that? So that's awesome to hear. I
Like,
know
no, I absolutely
I
want that
need the
Fiji water
straws.
instead of like crowd source or something.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
no, no.
and
That's
that
awesome.
way, like, really the whole ecosystem starts advocating for a cause. And
Hmm.
that's why, we don't just stop with the artist, because you really have to tackle every single stakeholder in the music industry to
Hmm.
make this thing happen. You have to have the artist support, you have to have the management and agents on board, you have to have the festivals also, you know really believe in it for it to be a successfully executed plastic event, because there's a lot of mishaps that can happen within just like operations alone. And you can end up in situations where even where you tried your best, plastic bottles end up in the ecosystem somehow, or you end up losing cups because the educational component wasn't there. And, we're learning, and we're growing with each thing that we see. But we just know like it's taking off, and, we get a lot of positive feedback. And yeah, it's just like, I think people thought that this was an impossible mission, and now it's happening. Like, and it's good to be leading that charge.
That's so cool. I think, it's also cool to see on the other side too, with the festival organizers, even implementing it into like the actual production and planning. Cause I think of SXM. I haven't been yet, but in St. Martin, I know they like utilize locations all over the island that are already there. I think it's like 90% of the stage materials are built from like nature or the environment, which is really cool to see. I know Blondish has played there a bunch of times, but are there any other festivals that come to mind for you that are a good example?
I'm trying to think. I should have this in my brain, but I don't know all of the European festivals that we've worked with. I've really just been like head down in the US. That's a good question. I should know.
I'm trying to think. Do you know Digital? I think it's Digital is one of them.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
That, oh my gosh, I hope those guys don't listen to this,
No,
because
you're good.
like, what are you thinking about? Yeah. So Digital Festival, a greener festival also in Europe. The US, I'm trying to think of like, are there any actual like music festivals itself? I don't think that there are. That I've come across where they've been like, yeah, we're already single-use plastic free. No.
There might be like certain because it's, I also want to ask about the fan side, like what we can do to get involved, because I've seen like those little things. So I know I've heard about Excision's like Lost Lands. They do a trash cleanup. I've heard that Grizz at the end of his set says like, everybody lean down, pick up a piece of trash on your way out. So I know there are certain people or events, like I'm leaving for Electric Forest this week. That's why it's top of mind. But like, I know they have tons of workshops and different things they're doing. And especially with the imprint that a camping festival leaves, like I know we've already said like we're doing a group camp. So we're like, bring water canteens, don't bring water bottles. Like what can we do to also like to eliminate that, especially with like even just carrying a hydration pack where you can just fill that up with a free water refill rather than buying water bottles at the festival all weekend. Like those are little things I can think of, but
yeah, hold on. You just gave me a really cool idea. Let me show you something. So, we actually created, specifically from the user perspective, speaking of camping festivals, a plastic-free travel kit. So it was specifically designed for like DJs and attendees alike who travel a lot for music events and stuff. And so this has like the reusable pouch. Obviously, we have this in orange and blue, and it comes with pretty much like the basic necessities of toiletries and like a lot of the things that people would just throw away. So it has like a reusable cup that can be used for coffee, tea, water. It has a lid. Plastic-free deodorant, because you sweat a lot in music festivals. A bamboo toothbrush, that's this, and toothpaste bites, so it doesn't come in a plastic tube. A reusable ear swab, because a lot of people don't know, like a lot of Q-tips are made of plastic.
Oh, wow.
Like the bar part.
Yeah.
And then reusable cutlery, so you're not throwing away like forks, spoons, knives, etc. all over the place. And then obviously you can pack your own reusable things. But yeah, I would say really just from a consumer, like an attendee perspective, is just, besides that, like just open your eyes, like when you are at an experience, really absorb the entire experience, like I think because things have become so normal for us, like culturally, like, okay, I'm going to give you this beer, this cocktail in a single-use plastic cup. Like people no longer realize like, I'm going to have this in my hand for like 5 minutes and then I'm throwing it away in the trash. And then I'm going right back to the bar to get another one. And is this sustainable?
Right.
Like, why am I doing this? So I think when we're maybe this is because I'm an events professional. So my job
Mm-hmm.
has always been be at these events and have your eyes open and just watch, like be very immersed in the experience
Mm-hmm.
for all the good things and the bad thing. Well, just
Right.
learning the way things are. But I think, yeah, just empowering people or just telling them, like slow down for a second and actually ask yourself, why are these things done the way that they are? What is
Mm-hmm.
actually happening here? What's happening in the background that's not part of the fun that I'm immersed in? And
Sure.
I think you'll learn a lot about our social culture that way when you just, make it a goal to actually learn and not just go to a festival and do drugs and drink and
Mm-hmm.
dance. I mean, that's all fun.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, do that, but it would be more meaningful if you take away more than just that.
Right. Keep our dance floors clean, keep our earth clean. Nobody wants
Yeah,
to be
I
stepping
mean,
on things.
no
It's like
one wants to
ridiculous.
step on shit, really. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, I can like
No, you're good.
cuss on this podcast, but like, who likes that shit? Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, for me, I remember, yeah, at the end of like Tomorrow World, I think, like 2015, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, like it was just a sea of
Trash.
crunch. I have
Yeah.
that crunch sound so deeply ingrained in
Mm-hmm.
my mind. And I'm like, I hate it. I hate it. I go to events and like if my foot hits a cup or ends up in a cup, I'm just like, why is this still a thing?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know.
There's plenty of things. I mean, and there's more on the site too, just shouting you guys out that if people like want to get involved or learn more about what they can do, but I just can't stress enough as well. Like staying hydrated at an event is like one of the number one tips everybody says, but like having a hydration pack on you that you can just refill so you're not carrying around or buying water bottles is an easy one to start with for sure. In general, this has been amazing. I just want to ask a couple more questions, but in general,
Of
what
course.
has the response been like maybe from like industry professionals or event promoters? Like what have you seen people saying like as you guys are spreading the word here?
So for the most part, it's really positive. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody can think anything negative of a positive movement.
Mm-hmm.
But to be completely realistic, like we operate in the world that we live in. So one of the biggest not so positive feedbacks that we get is obviously like cost and
Mm-hmm.
just what it takes to actually implement these strategies. So we try to make it creative and fun. We also try to make it financially beneficial for the event. So a lot of our strategies work based off of how can we get the sustainability program to actually pay for itself? So it's not an expense line on
Mm-hmm.
a P&L. And we've done really well at that. So when event producers see that instead of spending money on sustainability, they can actually make money,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's something people haven't heard of. And I
Right.
think that really busts the whole like sustainability is going to cost me an arm and leg. And we're like, if we can work together in a like far enough in advance, we can make it really creative and make it a system that's really gamified for the attendee where they want to participate in it. They have fun doing it. Because every time you switch something, there's always like that first user experience that can be
Mm-hmm.
positive or negative. But
Yep.
if you make it creative and you make it a game, people are more excited to be a part of it. And then
Mm-hmm.
you kind of create a new playground. And when you realize that it didn't really come at a cost to you outside of just figuring, like putting in some effort and figuring
Mm-hmm.
out new logistics, everybody's happy at the end. And
Right.
so on site, when we work like cup return stations and stuff like that, like people, like the attendees are like, we love this. Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
so proud to be a part of an experience that actually provided this for us. Because
Right.
there's only so much attendees can do. Like, you can be the most sustainable attendee, but if your like favorite DJ is coming to your city for like once in 2 years, are you going to boycott because the event doesn't have like
Mm-hmm.
reusables? No, you're going to go because you're
Right.
confined to what system the event producer gives you.
Mm-hmm.
But what we tell event producers is like, if you give people the sustainable option, they're going to pick that and they're going to be happy about it. And they will
Right.
continue to choose and support you as a brand because you're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I couldn't agree more. Like the fans are interested in that and would want to be able to be a part of it more often. And how many events are you guys at? Like if they want to interact in person, are there any like other events you guys have coming up, or do you normally have like a tent on site at certain festivals?
We do usually when we at least implement the reusable cup system, Bioplastic operates the cup return station because that's the
Cool.
best place for us to have like face-to-face interaction with
Mm-hmm.
people. When we don't, like for example, we had a tent at Ultra, so we weren't
Mm-hmm.
doing like reusable cups or anything there because they already have like paper cups, I believe.
Right.
Um, but we are working on that. Like, how can we have more face-to-face interaction at festivals?
Presence
So
there.
usually you'll see us promoting any of the events that we work with on our Instagram, like our socials. We always have links on in our bio. So
Mhm.
we promote like the events that we're a part of because we believe that they should get the acknowledgement and the credit for the efforts that they're doing. So
For
yeah, I
sure.
mean, if you guys see us on a flyer, there's a chance that we're going to be somewhere physically. So swing by and say hi. And if you guys want to sign up to help to be a volunteer, there is a form on our website, which is byebyeplastic.life, where you can get in contact and sign up specifically for Clean the Beat or to volunteer to help the sustainability efforts at events that we're a part of, and more.
Awesome. That's so cool. Yeah, no, I hope to see you guys more at events and see other things you're doing, even it's like the live streams, anything you're doing online, like any way we can support. I definitely want to get involved and have the community get involved as well. And
Yeah, that
then
would be amazing.
my last question for you too is now that we have events, like I'm sure 2023 is going to be like full swing with events being back and everything like that. But I'm kind of like I'm curious how you guys track progress now. Like, is it you seeing more eco riders being filled out and coming in? Is it like, seismic coming on board? Is it big events coming on board? Is it combination? Like, how are you guys tracking progress right now?
Yeah, that is such a great question because anybody can just say that they're like doing something, but like
Mm-hmm.
where's the report card? So we actually make an impact report for every event that we're a part of, and we measure all of the different like the metrics of the component that we're a part of. So if we're
Mm-hmm.
helping with water, because we don't always do all of them, but like if we're helping with water, we're tracking the numbers of water sold, cups, how many drinks were sold, how many cups were registered, what were the total attendees, etc. And then we're pumping out statistics. And then we create an impact report, which we also post on our Instagram
Mm-hmm.
so that we know how much waste are we eliminating at a specific event. And then when we're tracking multiple events with them, how is our impact increasing or are we decreasing? And then what are we doing like in one city in a given year or
Mm-hmm.
the entire US in a given year, and equating that to like weights of things,
Mm-hmm.
like how many tons of plastic is that eliminated? What is that the size of? Like
Mm,
blue whale or
right.
more, or how many cars. And I don't really handle that aspect. So Cami, our managing director of Bye Bye Plastic in Europe, she's our like sustainability nerd, so she's the one who's always cranking those out. But
Nice.
yeah, it's good to track that stuff and to know, because it's really the numbers
Mm-hmm.
that are important at the end of the day, and
Right.
that the numbers are actually what really is like the eye-opening factor for people.
Mm-hmm.
When people see the sheer numbers of like weight or quantities of things that we've diverted from the landfill, they're like,
Right.
holy shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like you're not thinking about it when you're drinking your cocktail,
Partying.
having
Yeah.
fun. But
Yeah.
that's the thing, is like, just because something goes in the trash doesn't mean it disappears. Like out
Mm-hmm.
of sight, out of mind is true, but that doesn't mean it goes out of existence.
Right.
It's still there. So really us working with more responsible and ethical like water brands, and implementing a reusable cup system, really trying to get rid of straws where we can. It all makes a difference.
Mm-hmm. It's such a good reminder. And I feel like I hope people are like visualizing so many things, because that's what I was doing while you were talking. But I think it's absolutely amazing what you're doing. I hope we have more festivals and organizers getting on board, and because as festivals grow, like more and more people are getting interested in it. Like they're getting bigger. It's just like insane to see the production and amount of people attending events now. So I think it's incredible what you guys are doing. And can you just plug again where everybody can connect with you and social media handles and all those things?
Yeah, definitely. So our Instagram and Facebook and Twitter are Bioplastic Life. So just bye spelled regularly, plastic life. And then our website is bioplastic.life.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope to see you at an event too very soon. But thank you so much, Priya. Hang tight.
Thank you. Likewise. Thank you for having me. And yeah, like we'll definitely have to sync up like what events you're going to, and see how we can get Bioplastic involved in those, and then we can see each other.
Hell yes.
And
we definitely
on a
have to
plastic-free dance floor.
That's the dream. 100%. Thank you so much for your time. Hang tight. Everybody else, I'll be back in just a minute with some news. Alrighty, you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Honestly, like I said, I was super honored to have Priya on today to talk about Bioplastic and to learn a little bit more about what they're doing. I just felt like it's a good reminder. Like it reminds me, like every little thing you do makes a difference. So even if you're listening and you're like, what can one person do? Like it adds up. So let's keep our dance floors clean. Let's pick up after ourselves. Let's think about the plastic that we're consuming. Like let's really make an impact on this industry. We love music festivals. We want to keep them going. We want to keep our earth clean. So if you guys want to get involved, again, I will leave links in the show notes to everything Bioplastic. Give them a follow, show them some love and support. And let's like encourage DJs. Like we have a voice online too. We didn't talk about that too much today, but when you tag the festivals, when you tag the event promoters, when you tag the artists, ask them if they have an eco rider, like ask them what they're doing to be more sustainable, like let's keep people accountable as well. So we all have a part to play here. So thank you, Priya, for coming on, and I'm excited about the future, you guys. All right, let's dive into our Rave Culture Cast recap. I just have a couple things for you here. We do have some festival announcements. So Coachella did drop their dates for next year. They're going to be back April 14th through the 16th and April 21st through the 23rd. And I believe the advanced sale tickets are already on sale for that. Ember Shores, which is Illenium's like all-inclusive festival, did announce their lineup for this year. So let's go over that really quickly. The headliners, obviously Illenium, Daily Sets. You've got Closey, Dab the Sky, Dylan Francis, and Subtronics. Absolutely fire. I also saw Artie, Blank, Crank Dat, Elon Bluestone, Inzo. We've got Nurko, Trifecta, William Black, Pause, like really, really good options. It's a nice mix. It's obviously a little bit more like melodic and future bass. You've got some trance on here though. And then Dylan Francis is just so much fun all the time. So that's going to be really, really fun. Packages are on sale. What else do we have? We have daily lineups from ARC Music Festival, which I was so excited because I will be at ARC this year. It's Labor Day weekend. It's all house and techno. I had a fucking blast last year. So in my humble opinion, looking at these lineups, I'm most excited about Friday. Friday is absolutely stacked. This keeps happening to me at events. I keep getting like most excited for the first day, which I feel like you start really, really high. But I'm pumped about Friday because you have Boris Breha, Chris Lake, Clooney, Eats Everything, Lane 8, Casablanca, Moritz Hofbauer, Nora and Pure, Pan Pot, Richie Houghton, like honestly, Friday to me is just super stacked just because a lot of my favorite artists are there. But Saturday, you've got the Carl Cox set, Charlotte DeWitt. We've got Shalina Menahutu, Derek Carter, Gene Farris, Get Real, Honey Dijon, Paco Sona, Seth Throxler, like insane. And then Sunday, the biggest things for me was the Adam Bayer back-to-back Threads D set. That's going to be insane. Ben Bomer, Claptone, DJ Tennis I've been dying to see. I've never seen Fatboy Slim, Gorgon City, Justin Martin, Vintage Culture, and Wax Motif, amongst many others. So like every day is amazing, but those are out. Tickets are on sale, you guys, for that. And I think the last lineup I have here is 3 Points, which is in Miami. This is also a really cool, like, eclectic lineup. A lot of electronic music, a lot of house and techno. It's Friday, October 21st and Saturday, October 22nd. I do have tickets on sale. I have an affiliate link through Insomniac. So if you guys want to buy tickets to 3 Points and you want to support me, you can use my link down below. But we've got LCD Sound System, Porter Robinson, Fisher, James Blake, Chris Lake, Polo and Pan, Art Bat, Loco Dice, Madeon, Nina Kravitz, to name a few. And then on Saturday, we've got Rosalia, Flume, Black Coffee, Bob Moses, Luciano, John Summit, Busta Rhymes, Mochak, and just really, really fire. So that's going to be absolutely incredible as well. Wobbleland Festival did announce that they're going to be postponing. So their new date is January 28th, 2023. This is in Salt Lake City, Utah. So I think they said their update, unfortunately, Zomboy recently tested positive for COVID-19 and was going to be unable to make it. So they did postpone the festival. So that's going to be in January. And then last but certainly not least, I saw this kind of like all over the news, but there was an announcement made that Avant Garner, which is like the big venue in Brooklyn that I go to all the time, acquired Electric Zoo. So they purchased Electric Zoo. And that is under Made Event as well. So EZoo takes place over Labor Day weekend. It says the business move is monumental in the context of the New York dance and electronic music market and cements Avant-Garner's prominence not only in this landscape, but also in the Northeast region at large. I think it said they purchased it for like $15 million. So I'm very interested to see what that means, because obviously with new owners, that could mean changes and all different types of things that would affect like the production and how Electric Zoo is run. So it's under new management this year. Very curious to see how things go. I won't be there because I will be at ARC, but I hope you guys have an amazing time and enjoy that. Avant Garner is incredible, so I'm sure it's all going to be amazing. But that is everything today, you guys. While you are still here, you can connect with us online at raveculturecast on all platforms. We have a Facebook group. We have a Discord community. Come join us. I would love to have you guys there. All of our links, again, with Bioplastic, my merch line, everything is linked down below. So you guys can feel free to check all of that stuff out. But the most important thing you can do today, if you were moved by what Priya said, if you want to get involved, share this episode. Post a link on Twitter, post it on your Instagram stories, tag Bioplastic. Like, you spreading the word means the world to me, you guys. So thank you so much for telling a friend about it today. Our community grows every single day, and it's amazing to see the connections being made, to hear from artists or other people saying like they want to come on the podcast, guys. Like, that's been happening lately, and it's literally blowing my mind. So I'm just super grateful that I still get to do this over 3 years later. And I'm just feeling very grateful. So thank you guys so much for listening, and I will be back actually in 2 weeks with a new episode. I'm going to take next week off because I am coming back from Electric Forest and I will be literally dead. But the following week I will be back with a full recap and review of Electric Forest. Get ready for it. It's going to be a good one. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.